Hello guys, what is up? My name is Dylan. Welcome to the Popcorn Podcast. This is episode number 72. We are back, myself and Clara, for our regular monthly catch-up to talk about everything that we watched in this month. Of course, this episode is going to be talking about everything that we watched in the month of May. So, it does really, I don't know about you, but it does actually really feel like the summer blockbuster season is really starting to kick into motion now. And that's evident here with a lot of the watches that we managed to check out this month. A lot of them are sort of blockbusters or big studio films, I want to say. Mm-hmm. Last month, we kind of ended, I think the last film we spoke about on the previous episode of this sort of mini-series was Alex Garland's Warfare. Yeah. And that was kind of like, I think towards the end of last month, that was on the 21st, but we still had a couple of films that we managed to check out sort of towards the end of April that we haven't spoken about. So what we're going to do is we're going to start from kind of just at the end of April, and then we're going to go on to May, and then the next episode will be talking about everything we watched in June. So that's a lot of waffle, but you guys get the point.
Lots of films we're going to discuss.
Lots of films we're going to discuss. The first of which is going to be 1996's Mission Impossible, directed by Brian De Palma. Of course, the start of a huge franchise, and of course, for obvious reasons, we went back, started at the beginning, and began the rewatch in preparation for, of course, the final reckoning. The first Mission Impossible.
Yeah, so I feel like I was partly also a good excuse for you to rewatch them. Yeah. Because I've never seen any other than
Fallout and Dead Reckoning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I only remember their numbers, let me not lie. But
what numbers are they?
5 and 6. No, 6 and 7. I knew. I just forgot.
That's it for the game segment.
But yeah, so I'd never seen them before, so it was fun just to do them all chronologically and in the right order. And I feel like often with these big blockbusters, people just go see the one that's out and they'll miss them, or they'll just come in at different times and things like that. So it was actually quite fun just to go back to the beginning and do them all.
Exactly. In order to complete the end, one must return to the beginning where it all started in 1996 with Tom Cruise's first ever, I think, producer credit. I think that's the first film he ever produced as well. And he's obviously produced every single one thus far. That's kind of what you get with working with Tom Cruise. You know, you don't just get the action star, you get producer and he has a lot of creative control on these films. The first Mission Impossible film is quite a bit different to the rest that sort of that are in the series. Mm-hmm. Once again, directed by Brian De Palma, who of course is a very, very popular director, particularly during the 70s and 80s with films like Scarface and Blowout and Carrie, this time taking on a beloved TV show franchise, Mission Impossible, and putting his unique directorial spin on this. What did you think of the first Mission Impossible film?
I really enjoyed it. It was less of the kind of blockbuster we now see. Yeah. Definitely a film of its time, but not in that way, in like a good way. And yeah, I thought I had a lot of fun with it. It was fast paced. It was great. And the stunts are always fun, even if they're not the sort of super, him jumping out of a helicopter and on a bicycle and on the Burj Khalifa. Do you know what I mean? It's sometimes nice to just watch the sort of more understated, impressive stunts. Like the first sort of one he does when he drops in from like the bungee cord or whatever and just like hovers just above the ground, like something like that. You're like, fuck me, that's impressive. Yeah. Partly because it's a stunt you can imagine. Yeah. If that makes sense. Like, okay, yeah, great, he can jump off the Burj Khalifa, no one can fucking do that, but Tom Cruise can, of course, and he's got 50 billion stuntmen around him, and I know it's Tom Cruise and it's amazing, but he has, but in your mind, that's what you think when you're watching. Yeah. Do you know, you're watching
it's
a blockbuster.
Incredibly coordinated and
exactly
orchestrated.
Like thinking about the new Thunderbolts, and I know we'll come on to talk about it more, but it starts with Florence Pugh jumping. Yeah. Like big films with enough money can do these kind of stunts. And I know no one can do it like Tom Cruise, and a lot of them involve CGI, yada, yada, yada. But there's still something just very impressive watching someone do something so physically demanding, but something you can conceive of.
Yeah, it's like almost the simplicity of this first stunt.
Exactly.
And there's a reason why, as opposed to just being in the first film, it is arguably the most iconic stunt in the entire franchise still.
Yeah.
So yeah, the film is so much fun. I think Brian De Palma also just directs the shit out of this film. It's so well shot and it cut together and it moves, like you said, really, really quickly. Some of the aspects I don't think hold up quite as well as I would have imagined they did back in sort of the late 90s. And there are, it is a little bit campy, a lot of Dutch angles, which we love. But it was nice for me to return to the one that kind of started it all and sort of begin to see that evolution of the Ethan Hunt character and, these films ultimately. So yeah, Mission Impossible, there's none quite like the first, so to speak. So, Mission Impossible. So on the next day, I actually went to rewatch Ryan Coogler's Sinners. It went up half a star for me. The first time I watched it, I gave it 4 stars. It went up half a star. Managed to finally check it out in IMAX, which was something that was really, just before, Tom Cruise came and stole all the IMAX theaters. Yeah. Managed to do that. Went with some friends, had a blast. Amazing film, fantastic. You've probably heard a lot about it already. Brilliant film. If you haven't seen it, go check it out.
100%.
A couple of days later, I'm so happy that I managed to check this out in the cinema. But of course, Revenge of the Sith had its 20-year anniversary, and myself and Panwa, after I finished work one day, we gathered in a Cineworld super screen and we watched, of course, Revenge of the Sith. To a lot of people, this is actually their favorite Star Wars film. It's not by any means the best Star Wars film, but it is so iconic. It is so beloved in the fandom. The amount of the countless memes and moments of pure just pop culture goodness there. It is just fantastic. Myself and Panwa annoyingly were sort of just reciting line by line by line.
I'm glad I didn't go.
It was a blast. It was such good fun to see this up on the big screen. And I also do think a lot of the film is actually pretty decent, pretty good. I think George Lucas does manage to nail that, that transition from Anakin to Darth Vader quite well. This is the one prequel film that's, a lot of people holds up some of it, yeah. And of course, I think it still has the best lightsaber fights in the entire saga to date. So, yeah, Revenge of the Sith. We do love Revenge of the Sith. The very last film we watched in the month of April, though, was Mission Impossible 2. Thoughts on Mission 2 since you hadn't seen it before?
Well, it was a bit meh. It's basically Tom Cruise as an action hero, but also a pimp. It's like, it's a very, needless to say, you couldn't make the film today.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's almost them trying to do Bond, but not doing it that well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this film is like the one film that they try and make Ethan Hunt like James Bond, with the love interest, with the love interest's relationship with the evil villain, who is also basically a version of Ethan Hunt, or someone who used to be in the IMF and now has gone on to become a sort of world-renowned terrorist.
You see, if they'd pitched me the film like that, I would have bought it because that was quite a good pitch.
Yeah, but the film, there's this whole love triangle thing in the film, and the film is so over the top in its melodrama, and it is undoubtedly Hans Zimmer's most misplaced film score ever. It is literally whatever they left on the cutting room floor of Gladiator just sort of sprung into the Mission. It's so like, like the ongoing joke about when soldiers in epic films die and they play like some woman just singing over. That's basically what this entire film is.
Except it's a Mission Impossible film.
Except it's a Mission Impossible film. There is an unbelievably hilarious scene of Ethan Hunt flirting with Tandy Newton's character Naya in this film with the 2 cars, and she almost dies because the flirting gets too much and she almost like falls off a cliff, and so, it's just so dumb, right? And Hans Zimmer's score in that is just kind of hilarious. It's directed by John Woo, who of course is one of the great Hong Kong directors, specifically renowned for his incredible action set pieces, and
I think, to be fair, this one has my favourite stunt in it.
What's your favorite stunt?
When they, so I just find it so funny when they're driving their motorbikes.
Oh, and they clash.
And they jump and they like hug in the air and their motorbikes explode.
Do they kiss as well?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, this is the unwritten queer love story of the Mission Impossible franchise.
Oh yeah.
It's like the end of Challengers.
Yeah,
bicycles.
Basically, yeah. I would be lying if I didn't say I didn't actually enjoy some aspects of this one. It is kind of fun at the end of the day, even if you're laughing at of the film. And obviously it's Tom Cruise still being a badass. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It also has the best mask reveal in the entire franchise, I think.
Oh yeah, that bit was fun.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
and also Amy's underrated stunt of the entire series is the knife in the eye. So Ethan Hunt is fighting Sean Ambrose at the end, and then Sean Ambrose like basically goes to stab him in the face, and the knife is like this close to Tom Cruise's eyeball.
Oh yeah.
That is people don't think of a stunt being as sort of intimate as that, but it's potentially even more dangerous than your Burj Khalifa stunt.
Yeah.
Moving on, we finally touched down in the month of May, and the first film I want to say, was Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts. Now, I have reviewed the film on the channel previously with Mr. Henry Calvert. If you do want to go check out my thoughts on that film, you can go and have a peek at that episode. But Clara, we did actually manage to watch it a couple weeks sort of into the month of May, so we might as well have you talk about your sort of thoughts on this film. Take it away.
I really enjoyed it. It was definitely a nice escapism kind of film, sort of back to sort of the old days of, I don't like going back to the old days of Marvel, but like it was good. I could escape my...
Would you say this film feels like the old days of Marvel?
No. That's what I said. I missaid. Okay. But like it was the kind of film where I could be like, oh, Marvel film's coming out. I can go and I can escape into a superhero world for a couple of hours, and it felt a bit like that. It was more like, I definitely felt that adventure and escapism. I wasn't here like, oh my God, this is terrible, when can I leave? I was there like really in the story and enjoyed it. Was it a perfect film? No. Were there some things in it that were a bit like, we could see where this is going, or a bit heavy-handed or whatever? Maybe. But it looked good, and I love Florence Pugh, and I found it enjoyable and funny. And I thought the design of the void was amazing as well.
The void, yeah. Really, really
it's
good.
Really cool.
Solid film, I think. Yeah. Moving on, that weekend, myself, you, and your brother Arthur, we went to see Whiplash in concert at the Barbican in London, conducted by the man himself, Justin Hurwitz, with a full jazz band playing along with the film in real time. What an experience. I mean, the pair of us, we've already seen Justin Hurwitz live at the Royal Albert Hall do La La Land, but Whiplash,
this is insane.
It's
I have insane, to say, for me, it was a much more like immersive or visceral experience than seeing La La Land.
Yeah.
I think partly because obviously the singing in La La Land can't be live.
Yeah.
So you have that. It's still
there is still some element of the diegetic film. Yeah.
So like, but with this one, because it was all the music was so sort of captivating and intense, and with it, and the last drum solo, that drummer was just insane, and I almost switched from the film just to watching this drummer, and it just intensified everything. It was amazing.
Couldn't agree with you more. I think the kind of main difference between obviously Whiplash here and La La Land, the music, seeing those two films live in concert is, firstly, obviously the instrumentation is different. One has a symphonic orchestra, one has more of a sort of rough and tough jazz band, so to speak, saxophones, drums, bass. And I think, typical jazz bands, definitely you can feel the kind of physicality of those instruments and the performers much more than you can a symphonic orchestra, where everything is so in sync and smooth and kind of fluid. Jazz, especially the jazz in Whiplash, is very kind of white knuckled and kind of really sort of skeletal in
you get the
ways.
Intense, like there's something like, definitely, especially when we went to see, like, because we've seen other things in concert like Jurassic Park and the Batman and things like that, and having that is more like, for me, it's more emotional. Like I want to cry more, or just have some sort of, seeing it live, like you get those waves of emotion. But there was something with Whiplash where you got waves of like intensity that was different than with other things.
It's almost like a boxing match you're watching.
Exactly.
Like there is a real like gripping quality to it that the other films don't quite have. And of course, the film itself and the themes and the ideas that it's kind of wrestling with only intensify that. And also, I was curious to see how, since Whiplash is such a, it's not like La La Land where the songs and the dance numbers are so meticulously placed throughout. So when the orchestra is going to start and when they're going to stop. Those moments. Whereas Whiplash, you have those moments where the band is playing Whiplash or Caravan or something like that. Those moments are coming up, but you also have the small moments where Terence Fletcher says to Andrew Neiman, double time swing, and then it's literally you got to be on. Or
there's Jazz's score as well.
Yeah, or there's Jazz's score. So every type of diegetic and non-diegetic film score there is, Whiplash has, and I think it was so impressive to see that live band play that much sort of on it, in sync with what is happening in the film.
Definitely.
What an experience. And
what I found interesting for the film is watching it again, I definitely took different things from the ending. We had an argument about this.
We had a debate about what the ending actually meant. But
but I just found that interesting again. Like, I do think it is it's always nice watching a film that you think you understand and you think that you love, and then watching it again and being almost reassured that it's a great film and that you love it.
Don't try to understand.
But actually just thinking, oh, wow, I didn't get it. It means something completely different to me now.
But I don't even think it's like brilliant. That. I think it's like the film could actually technically mean different things at different points in your life.
No, exactly. That's what I meant. Yeah. That, like, it's amazing seeing that and watching it and being like, oh, for me it meant a lot back then because I felt this, and now seeing it again, it means a lot to me because I think this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what absolutely. Moving on, we watched Mission Impossible 3. This was J.J. Abrams' directorial debut. I think.
What else has J.J. Abrams done?
He's done Super 8. He's done the Star Trek films. I think at least the first one. He's done The Force Awakens. A lot of. I would say a really solid director. I actually really like J.J. Abrams. It's just a shame what happened with the sequel trilogy, and I really loved The Force Awakens. I thought what he was able to do with that film is pretty amazing and understated, and will not look back on. People won't look back on those films fondly because of what happened with them, but. I think he's a really, really solid director, and I also really enjoy him because he's very Spielbergian. He's very much influenced by. I actually Steven
really
Spielberg.
love Super 8.
Super 8, yeah. It's basically like J.J. Abrams' version of E.T. It's like,
exactly.
So I love any kind of directors who take influence from my favorite director, Steven Spielberg. And Mission Impossible 3, it's I think we're hearing George from Pulp Kitchen podcast talk about just how how much he loves this one in particular. The high contrast, the flashing cinematography, the way the camera kind of moves a bit like liquid, like through the film. It's also potentially the most personal Mission Impossible film I think there is, because of the love interest story going.
Yeah, no, because when George was on, he asked me what my favourite one was out of the ones I've seen, and I wouldn't necessarily say 3. I don't know what my favourite is, but 3 is definitely my favourite in terms of story. Like, it is fun having slightly higher emotional stakes for Ethan Hunt.
Yeah.
Philip Seymour Hoffman is brilliant.
Oh yeah, best villain.
Yeah, 100%. Like, he is great. Like, I really, really, really enjoyed the film.
Has one of the best opening scenes as well in any film. Usually these films start with a huge stunt, but this one is just Tom Cruise and Philip Seymour Hoffman, two of the greats, basically going at it, and it is one of the most sort of nail-biting scenes in the entire franchise. You never see Ethan Hunt that desperate, and basically it's a sort of insight into what is to come in the film, and I think it's just brilliant. So yeah, Mission Impossible 3. The next day, of course, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Now,
which is your favorite?
Yes. So Ghost Protocol is my favorite in the franchise. Do I think it is the best in the franchise? Not sure. It's up there with the best. Fallout might be the best, probably is the best. Ghost Protocol is the one that I watched most as a kid. I had that film on Blu-ray, loved that film, still love it. And I hadn't seen it in a long time. It was really nice to revisit that film with you. So I want to hear, actually, because I haven't really gone into the film with you properly about it, but tell us what you thought about Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
I really enjoyed it. I thought the stunts were amazing. Obviously, the Burj Khalifa, phenomenal. I thought it was really good, very well paced. I liked it a lot. I guess more my and not issues with the film, but why maybe it's not up there with like my favourites, is because of the sort of like emotional story is very much a throwaway. I feel that is like, oh yeah, we get Tom Cruise back. Oh, spoilers by the way. Oh yeah, and his wife got murdered and he's sad in like a throwaway. And it's like, I just feel a bit like, and again, I know that's not what these films are about, but I did kind of like that with 3, it was the story and the stunts. Whereas with 4, I did feel very much like it was the stunts.
Yeah.
And then they wrote some things in.
Yeah. I can see what you mean. I think in a way it sort of just sidelines a lot of the things that happen in 3 and how important Julia was to Ethan. And you start this film wondering what the hell happened and where the hell is she, and they choose not to adopt or take on that relationship further into this film until like the very end, where you really find out what kind of happened. But this is, for me, this is the start of like where it really starts getting good. I think most big studio franchises could only dream of the newfound life that this film invigorated back into the Mission Impossible franchise. What Brad Bird was able to do, Brad Bird was not renowned for his live action films. He made two of my all-time favorite films in The Incredibles and Ratatouille, and of course did The Iron Giant as well. So coming off a different medium, animation, definitely you can see how much that has enabled him to just have fun with with this film. I think, like I said, it is the turning point of the franchise, Ghost Protocol. For me, it still has the best stunt, which is the Burj Khalifa. That stunt is just, for me, I don't know if it can be topped. I don't know if it ever has been topped since, and I think it is just absolutely just insane, and it's kind of just testimony to Tom Cruise and the kind of literal lengths that he goes to for these films. This is the first one that was like, people literally watch that and were like, what the, like, this is actually insane. I agree with you. It doesn't have quite the emotional sort of storytelling going on here that some of the other films do. The villain is quite weak.
I do enjoy, like, they had more of the kind of like room switching kind of farce, things like that, the funniness of the side characters. Like, I do enjoy all of that stuff that I feel like this film really drew out.
Oh yeah, it's the team dynamic is the one that Ghost Protocol really nails. Like, everything they plan for, something happens that thwarts the plan, and they constantly have to problem solve. Panwa made an amazing video essay back in the day on how Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, why it's so great, is because in those situations when you think the team have it under control, they've got another thing that they need to solve, like the Burj Khalifa stuff. Ethan Hunt's got to go to the X floor to do this, and then Paula Patton's got to hope and pray that Thingy-Majig hasn't met Lea Seydoux and has to pose as her, and then they've got to do these transactions simultaneously, and Jeremy Renner's got the contact lens in his eye, and then they've got to print real nuclear launch codes, and what the threat, what the risk of that doing, having that is. Then you have the famous Tom Cruise run with the sandstorm in the back. It's just absolutely brilliant, and they have an amazing Mumbai closing sort of act at the end as well, which is so much fun. I love Ghost Protocol. Just love that film. Later on that week, I went to see Final Destination's Bloodline.
Oh yeah, you said it was really fun.
Final Destination Bloodlines. For me, I grew up on a lot of horror films, but the Final Destination franchise is just sort of the horror franchise that kind of is the one that got away. I'd never ever seen a Final Destination film up until when I went to see this new one, and to this day I still haven't managed to see any others. This is the only one that I've watched since, and I went into the screening thinking it was, I'll be honest, I thought it was going to be utter garbage. Went after work, went to the Warner Brothers multimedia screening for a really cool event. They had this huge like skull
that's fun.
Sort of exhibition thing going on, which was a lot of fun. Saw a lot of the other sort of geekdom creators, film talk creators there. That was nice seeing everyone and catching up. Saw this at Leicester Square IMAX for no reason. Don't know why you need to see this in IMAX, but hey, there you go. And our guys,
terrified.
I had a blast with this film. This was such good fun. Is it a great film? Not particularly, but I think when you think of Final Destination and what that franchise is supposed to be and what people go to watch these films for, this film kind of really just understands that, has fun with it. It the script is serviceable, it works, but the situations that these characters find themselves in is just really, really kind of fun, intense, everything you want out of these kind of films. The opening sequence as well is really, really quite something. This whole sort of situation, tragedy that goes on. If you don't know what the franchise is, do you know what the...
Yeah, you've explained.
Like, death is basically coming to get everyone, and people basically dying in the most absurd, ridiculous ways. A lot of the audience were laughing a lot of the moments, which, if you haven't seen any of these films, might sound like quite disturbing. But like I said, the film has so much fun, doesn't take itself too seriously. Some really, really creative kills. If you have any piercings, I would not recommend you go and watch this film, this new one. But yeah, I had such a good time with it. I don't really know what else to say, but
no, it's good.
I look forward to watching the other ones and sort of just having kind of if I have a free Sunday or something, which I never have.
You should invite Ebony.
Yeah. Pretty solid, yeah. On the 9th, we watched Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Take it away.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one as well. I think possibly...
Your favourite?
My favourite.
Wow.
Maybe. It's this one and the third one that I'm like kind of tying at the moment, but I need to rewatch 7 and 8. 7 and 8?
6 and 7.
6 and 7. I need to rewatch 6 and 7. But I really, really enjoyed this one. I thought Rebecca Ferguson's character really carried this one through. Not carried it, but like, she really... She was
one of the best characters in the entire bloody franchise.
She was the one that made me go, okay, maybe this one's my favourite as well. Because, I thought she does it so well. She's such a great sort of double agent spy character. Is she a double agent? Is she not? Like, just so much fun. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. A lot of fun. Had all the sort of great team, like we said about the fourth one, with the plus of Rebecca Ferguson. So I really enjoyed.
Looking back on Rogue Nation, it was never my favorite in the franchise. For me, it always kind of went a little under the radar just because of it never, none of the stunts in Rogue Nation quite matched for me the sort of towering heights of Ghost Protocol, but also it's not the cinematic kind of juggernaut that Fallout is. So it kind of got sandwiched between these huge mission films. So it was never really my favorite in the franchise, although I still did really enjoy it. However, revisiting it, I think I found it like almost a newfound appreciation for Rogue Nation. I think it is almost like the dark horse of the franchise, and so good. It is. I think it's the quickest paced in the film flies.
Yeah,
I would say it flies up until kind of the motorcycle chase, and then afterwards, I think the third act for me is where it kind of drops off.
What's with me in the motorcycle stunt? I was so impressed by that one
brilliant.
as well.
It's brilliant.
When he's like turning around the bends and his knee brushes the thing, and you're like, oh no!
It's so good. So good. Rebecca Ferguson is absolutely fantastic in this film. Is she a good guy? Is she a bad guy? Kind of playing that sort of femme fatale really, really well.
Yeah, and the villain is great.
Yeah, Solomon Lane. He's good. He's really good.
He's not Philip Seymour Hoffman.
He's not.
He's great.
He's not. He's so icy and cold, and like Sean Harris has such like a piercing, almost like he's very like snake-like, and his voice is very, very particular that really gets under your skin, really gets under Ethan Hunt's skin, and you can see exactly why he's kind of this, the leader of this kind of rogue organization who Ethan Hunt is determined to hunt down essentially and kind of
and it had like the ending, it had like brilliant. Tom Hollander and stuff stuff like that come in and
as the Prime Minister,
as the Prime Minister, like it just had these little nuggets of hilarity and fun in with this whole spy shenanigans. It was just I really enjoyed it. It was fun.
It's also the first film that Christopher McQuarrie directed, and of course now he is basically helmed half of the franchise from Rogue Nation onwards, and I think the film is also gorgeously shot. The opera sequence,
that's so much fun. And
obviously
I kind of wish the opera was actually like that.
And also of course the hanging off the side of the plane at the very beginning. I remember you turned to me and you were like, is he actually doing that for real? I was like, yes he's
Tom Cruise, idiot. No, but I think, though I have to say, I think although that is an amazing opening, it is the best, in my opinion, stunt in the film. And I was like, kind of like with what you said about Thunderbolts. Like, why do it at the beginning, like build up to it? But it was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it still works, but like, yes, I do get what you mean. Like, you don't want to peak too early.
Yeah. Like when I think about this film, when we were thinking, like, because as we've been speaking about them, I'm running through the major stunts in my head. I thought of the underwater, and it took me a while to be like, oh, that's the one with the plane, because it was at the beginning, and it just goes sort of into nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously Benji, who we love, Simon Pegg, is back. Hey, Benji, open the door. I
love him. He's so sweet.
Thunderbolts, me and you went to see kind of the next evening, not the next evening, a couple of days later. You wanted to check it out, went to see it for the second time because a lot of people have been really upset with me because I haven't just loved it as much as a lot of people have. I think it's a really good film, and not to go back to Thunderbolts, but like I think it's a really good film, or a really solid MCU film. Do I think it's like top 10 MCU?
No,
I'm
it's
not quite
top
sure.
10, but it's a good, like, as a sort of in-between film to be like if it had been sandwiched between some of the Avengers films, for example, that kind of era, you'd be like, that was solid, I enjoyed, and then you'd go to the next one.
Can I just say, I think a lot of the reason why people get along with this film why a lot of people are really getting on with Thunderbolts is literally just something you said, which is the timing of which this comes out. So you just said if it had been sandwiched between some of the Avengers films beforehand, it would have been nice and fun. I disagree. I think if you put this film back in like phase 1 or 2 of the MCU, it would have been really, really negatively received. I think,
really? But like something like, I don't know, I feel like I've seen some of them in between others, and you'll be like, yeah, that was fun, and it keeps the excitement going and the story going, and it gives me nuggets to like what will happen next. But it was just a good standalone film of, not standalone, but you know what I mean, a good film of like, oh, this is some of the like shenanigans that the first making of this team. It's not like on par with the first Avengers film, obviously.
No.
But like, it's like one of those in-betweeny ones, like the first Ant-Man or something.
No, I disagree. I completely
this
disagree.
is fun.
I completely disagree.
Because I didn't really like the first Ant-Man.
No, I completely disagree. I think the Ant-Man films, the reason why they still are part of the old MCU is because of tone. And I think the Avengers films always have, they do have this kind of sort of big commerciality to it, and almost like borderline campness, and it's just so much fun, and it's like the blockbuster, the pinnacle of blockbuster fun. Whereas Thunderbolt is for me, I think it's almost like the dark, the kind of the naughty child of the MCU.
Yeah.
The kind of gothic. The goth child of the MCU.
That's what I kind of mean. If it was running alongside the others, you'd be like, oh, that was different and fun. And then you'd go back. I just feel like people wouldn't be giving it so much attention, but also people wouldn't hate it. Like, it would be one of those of like,
yeah, no, but this is, I don't know. I think it's like, for me, the problem with Thunderbolts is it is its own thing. It's very much its own thing. I love how it's shot. I love how a lot of, A24 filmmakers came on board and, collaborated to make this kind of film. And it's, it does have an underlining theme and message, which we love to see. However, I do feel like it's also a film that tries to be deeper than I feel like it actually is.
Fair enough, yeah.
So
that is a bit, I get it. It's like a bit preachy in a way.
No, yes, and preachy isn't the word. It's more like, it's just, it's not quite as revolutionary in its commentary as I think a lot of people think it is.
I agree with that. Like, was it Henry that said this, or was it you? That like, for a lot of kids, this might be the first.
Absolutely.
And I love that. Like, it's not a bad thing that these films touch on deep topics and like all of that. And it's not saying anything deep and revolutionary to an adult that knows quite a lot about mental health, but to a kid,
The thing is, right, like, don't let us discard how you feel about Thunderbolts. If it is, if it really touched a nerve with you, and if it really got you, and you could relate to a lot of the things and whatnot, absolutely amazing stuff. Like, genuinely, don't let us discard these things. I think just for us personally, it didn't do anything that we hadn't seen films do before. But overall, it doesn't matter what we think, because the fact of the matter is, it's a huge MCU film tackling such a profound theme that is so common amongst us. And I feel like just to see a huge film of this scale, just even attempt to do that is going to speak so much volume. And I'm really happy that it did do that. And I think the film is solid and it's good. Had fun with it. Don't think it is quite as deep as it is. There we go. That's our Thunderbolts kind of review. So the next day, I went to see Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. So We were still back on our rewatches. We still hadn't quite made it to Dead Reckoning yet. We still have Fallout and Dead Reckoning to do before the pair of us go collectively to see the Final Reckoning, because you haven't seen it yet. But I went to see the Final Reckoning. I went to the Paramount Pictures multimedia screening. Was really hoping Tom Cruise was going to show up, but he literally, we were like fingers crossed. Like, I was like with Amy, like, oh my God, he's going to come. Because he's in London. He's in London. Why would he not show up? And literally, the day of the screening, the morning of the screening, bro flies to Cannes to premiere. And we're like, oh no! Like, but nevertheless, packed Leicester Square IMAX screen to watch Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt do this, asking us to trust him one last time. And I will refrain from talking about this film here. If you want to know sort of my thoughts on the film, I've not only reviewed it with Amy, but also I've had Izyan, dear friend of ours, who is in the film himself, to sort of talk more a bit about the kind of behind the scenes stuff and all really cool stuff. So I will leave a link to both of those episodes down below in the description box, but I will refrain from talking anything about the Final Reckoning now.
Thank you, no spoilers, please.
Yes. On the 23rd, again, I went to see Hurry Up Tomorrow, which is a film directed by Trey Edward Schultz. It is a companion piece to The Weeknd's latest album with the same title, Hurry Up Tomorrow. Let's go.
Can I just ask you a question? How many stars did you give this on Letterboxd?
I'm not going to tell you yet. I'm going to tell you in a sec. Okay. I'm going to tell you in a sec. So Hurry Up Tomorrow. Just to kind of set the scene for you guys. I'm a big fan of The Weeknd. You know this.
I know this.
I've been a fan of The Weeknd since Kissland and Beauty Behind the Madness. Back in kind of the early 2010s. I think it was early 2010s, or at least mid 2010s. I used to listen to The Weeknd when I was in school. I have been to see this guy live many times. There hasn't been an album of his that I don't actually like. Big fan. Seen him live. Really rate his stuff. I even had merch from back in the day. That's how much I like The Weeknd.
Aww, that's kind of cute.
Yeah. So guys, trust me when I say that this has to be one of the most pretentious, self-indulgent piles of absolute baloney that I have ever seen. It is one of the worst films I have maybe seen, definitely this year, but maybe seen of recent years. Oh my goodness. Can I ask some questions about this film? Please do.
What is it about?
It is literally, okay, I'll tell you what. I'm not even going to tell you what it's about. I'm going to let you tell me what it's about. It's about The Weeknd, and it's a drama about The Weeknd. What would you think? Like, just give me a plot.
The drama about The Weeknd, I don't know, like rise to fame, how difficult it is being famous and how everyone knows your name. Like
Done. literally what you said. It is the most like bottom of the barrel, like pile of arse that I've seen about, what it's like being famous, struggling with fame and all the pressure of fans, and also has this kind of storyline of The Weeknd trying to get over a breakup, and then a new girl played by Jenna Ortega enters his life and almost gives him a kind of reawakening of sorts, and makes him look back on his career as a pop star. Barry Keoghan is in this film as well. Why? I have no fucking idea.
Who does he play?
He plays The Weeknd's like best friend, his manager, like his best friend. And basically Barry Keoghan is like the entire way, he's just like, bro, you got this, man. Like, you got to go on stage, man. You got to fucking... I don't know why it's so random.
I wonder how much they paid Barry Keoghan.
It's so random. I haven't seen Trey Edward Schultz's previous work. I know he directed a film called Waves, which I'm so... It's been on my watch list for ages and I really want to check it out. So from what I'm told, he is a more than capable filmmaker. He's quite a talented filmmaker. And I think after 6 years of him not making any films, he returns with this pile of arse, yeah. I've always really admired The Weeknd or any artist for having an appreciation and a love and genuine understanding for cinema and films. There's a lot of cinematic moments in previous kind of music videos of The Weeknd, whether it be Blinding Lights, that music video is basically an homage to Martin Scorsese's Casino, or Todd Phillips' Joker, or Out of Time, which is like Sofia Coppola's Lost in Translation, which is so. The Weeknd is a person, a pop star, an artist that loves movies, and I love that he loves that. And I think it's always been great. So, of course, to me, it wasn't, I wasn't surprised when he wanted to make a film. And I'd only seen the first 2 episodes of The Idol, but obviously didn't hear great things about this. But this, bro, Abel, this just isn't it, man. This is not it. It is just, this film is awful. The kind of final act is basically Jenna Ortega kind of looking back, playing The Weeknd his own songs and basically giving a commentary on how great Blinding Lights is and how revolutionary it is. And then also playing a song called Gasoline, which is from a Dawn FM album, which I think is a cool song. So I was like, oh, that's nice that you included that as well. But also the problem with that compared to something like Blinding Lights, it's just literally... Wait,
she just took down another song to praise Blinding Lights.
Basically, she basically word vomits commentary on some of his previous songs. Like literally, he's like strapped to a bed. She's like supposed to be like this
dominatrix woman.
No, like this obsessed fan. Basically, kind of thing, or like this, and basically like word vomits everything great about some of his previous songs and everything not so great, and how that kind of wrestles with his identity and fame, and at the same time, it's a mess. This film is an absolute mess. The film is also an hour and like 40 minutes that felt like 5 hours long because every shot lingers on like it's trying to win a staring competition with you, genuinely. I have very, very little things good to say, very, very little good things to say about this film. I think visually, it's a beautiful film. I think Trey Edward Schultz, like, he definitely has an eye for visuals, but like I said, every shot goes on for way too long. I wanted to leave the cinema. I watched this late one night after work with Isaac, who's a good friend of mine, and I was in the cinema like, bro, like I was verbally like, bro, I'm struggling. I'm really struggling. And he was like slouched in the sofa seat, just like looking at the screen, like, kill me now.
What did you give it on Letterboxd?
I gave it 1.5 stars.
So
it's not like the worst film I've ever seen.
Because it looked nice.
Yeah, it looked good, and it's The Weeknd, and it has some of his songs in it, even if the fucking thing is making me hate this latest album even more. I don't actually hate the album. I think the album's, some of the songs I get on with, but just pile of arse, this film. Yeah. So that was a couple of weeks ago, but then yesterday we returned to the cinema for our final 2 watches of the month of May. The first of which was Stanley Kubrick's last film, Eyes Wide Shut, which we saw at the BFI because they're doing like a Tom Cruise sort of run through all of his films. So don't know how much longer that's going to be playing there, but managed to check it out. I had seen this, sorry, I feel like I'm talking a lot, but I had seen this film for the very first time when I was like 15, and I felt like really edgy and cool because A, I was watching a Stanley Kubrick film, and B, it was a film about sex, so I thought it was like, oh my god, I'm really like a film person now. Watched it then, was kind of blown away by it, but didn't really understand it. So have revisited it basically a little over 10 years now. And I will let you talk about the film and what you
I feel like the more I think about it, the less I like it.
Okay.
So just to preface, Stanley Kubrick, I don't need to say, is a beyond talented filmmaker
of all time,
and has absolute mastery over his craft. But this story, firstly, what the fuck was this story? It was, you made me jealous because you thought about another man, so I'm going to cheat on you and have some like crazy night of just all of Stanley Kubrick's fantasies, but keep getting interrupted before I can actually have sex. So like the woman's boyfriend comes home, or I get a call from my wife, or the hooker I tried to sleep with had HIV. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's just like, okay. And then he comes home and then he tells her what happened, and she goes, we all have our fantasies. Let's fuck. And it's like, okay, great.
That's an oversimplification of the film.
No, but it to me, it felt, firstly, by the first moment the guy was like, okay, my wife thought of another man, so I'm going to cheat on her. I was like, okay, I'm kind of done with this guy. He's clearly an asshole. But you know, you can watch films with a person you don't necessarily agree with. That's fine. But for me, there wasn't much to the rest of it. It was all his fantasies, basically. And for me, this portrayal of lust definitely doesn't speak to me in any way. It's definitely not ever how I've experienced what lust is. And I know, again, you can watch films about other people's experiences, but like, it is how I've seen lust portrayed previously. It's very much how lots of films might portray what lust is. and I don't feel like does something different with it. So for example, like something like American Beauty or something like The Wolf of Wall Street portray lust in this kind of way. A lot of naked women, a lot of like seductive stares, lip biting, all of this kind of stuff. Again, something that I don't
resonate with.
Like, I can see what you're doing and I'm like, cool. But like, it's interesting in a film like American Beauty or like The Wolf of Wall Street because they're using it for something. They're showing you something else. There's complexity and depth to what they're doing. Whereas with this, it was just like, oh no, it's just a fantasy. Like, it was like you asked Stanley Kubrick to direct the first 5 minutes of a porno, but all stuck together for an entire evening. So like, great mastery, but like, I just didn't get anything from it. So I think that was what I felt about this film. And of course, like, I think also, to be completely frank, I will always have an emotional reaction to some of it. Like, there isn't like the whole scene in the cult, as much as, again, filmed amazingly and stunning, the score, everything. But when you've got like, you know, a bunch of veiled naked women with collars on being led around and being, to quote another character, you know, have their brains fucked out, it does give me like a visceral reaction. Like, it is always going to
get under the skin a bit.
Get under my skin and leave me feeling a bit disgusting. So like, there's always that in a film like this. And as much as I want to like remove that and think about this film as a film, I'm always going to have that kind of reaction to something like this. But yeah.
Fair enough. I think I understand what you're saying. I completely understand what you're saying. I think firstly, what I would say about Eyes Wide Shut is, number one, it's probably one of, if not the weaker Stanley Kubrick films. It was the last film he did before he died. I think in order for you to really enjoy the film, you have to be a little pretentious. This is a good thing I am. So I think Eyes Wide Shut, I think a lot of it I really enjoy, and a lot of it I just think is, like, for example, the last hour of the film, or the last kind of 45 minutes of the film, I think is way too sort of, it goes on for a long time. And I think the most interesting part of the entire film is the first sort of hour. Whenever like it's Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. Yeah,
they are definitely the most electric.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think they were married at the time. So like that chemistry is definitely there. And I think a lot of the ideas of what the film is wrestling with are introduced literally in the first 30 minutes or so. And those are the ideas that I think are most interesting and what Kubrick is really trying to kind of get to grips with. I think the film is about a lot of different things. It is first and obviously foremost about relationships, marriage, you know, the difference between physical intimacy and kind of emotional fantasy, I want to say, the relationship between those two kind of things, but also ultimately the consequences of infidelity as well. And I think for me, I think a lot of the ideas are really interesting, like I said, and it's great to see Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman like really kind of act. You know, Tom Cruise is known, we've been talking about Mission Impossible for most of this episode. Tom Cruise is known as the big sort of action blockbuster movie star, but it was nice to really return to a role where, you know, you're reminded that he is a very much classically trained actor and he can bloody well act. Like, he's really great. I do think the film is bloated and lingers and goes on, and I feel like the first 2/3 of the film are much more effective than the last third of the film. I do think at the end of the day, I'm always going to enjoy a film like this because it's directed by Kubrick, and I think he's just brilliant, like you said, like everything he kind of does, the way it's so masterfully constructed from scene to scene, every sort of shot is so meticulously placed. It's brilliant. And I think it's interesting you mentioned about kind of Tom Cruise being in these situations, but not, for lack of a better phrase, not actually fucking anyone or sexually, physically exchanging. And of course, the film kind of asks questions of like whether or not we ourselves consider it to be cheating. The film asks those questions of, you know, what is the line, or what's the point at which? Go on.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, to be fair, he never actually sleeps.
Yes,
with people,
but
he
this is what I mean.
People
yeah, but this is what I mean. Yeah. This is what I mean. It's because he almost. Yes, we would both consider that cheating, but it's just a preference. But he almost goes the whole way every single time. And I think there's actually something quite interesting there about how the film might resonate or be interpreted by different people who have their own takes on what relationships are. And
I get what you're saying.
I think we have quite traditional views of what relationship, like cheating and being faithful in a relationship, as with most people, I wouldn't say. But there are a lot of people.
No. I know what you're saying. And I do think, and I mean, I was very harsh at the start of this. I do agree with you that they're both an electric pairing. And you're right, like when they're together and playing off each other, it is the most sort of...
The film is really like
it's
doing something.
Yeah, it's really doing something. I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. And I do think, maybe it's partly that it was all, if you would have condensed the film or cut some of the last third, I wouldn't have felt the overpowelingness of the sort of like, that sort of, that whole like lust-filled dream sequence thing. I felt I like did nothing for me, and like I found it like very repetitive and slow. So I think maybe if some of that had been cut down, I would have interpreted this film very differently, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I also think it's really quite interesting the way the sort of reasons for which Nicole Kidman has these fantasies, and the reasons why Tom Cruise gets sort of kind of caught up in this whole cult situation. Nicole Kidman's is very much internal, her internal psyche, her internal thoughts, her internal fantasies, whereas Tom Cruise's actions are as a result of him feeling emasculated. So both are obviously still very wrong, but also Kubrick showing that kind of spectrum of why people end up in these situations. Is it because of the demons that we bury deep down within ourselves that everybody has, because it is just human nature, or is it because we are reacting to things that make us feel less than we are? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but you do partly feel like that whole first conversation, if Tom Cruise had just been like, what the fuck, why would you say that? Like, why are you trying to hurt me? And then actually had an honest conversation about why this all happened, all of this film would have been so much shorter.
That is true, but like that is true. But also, I think it still works for the characters. Even if you had that conversation, you would still be thinking about it afterwards. You will not be able to find closure or finality if Nicole Kidman just said, "I'm sorry." Tom Cruise, he's the guy. He's a good-looking guy. He's a doctor. People revere him.
Oh my god, the doctor.
Yet, of course, you would still be thinking about that after a conversation. I don't think a conversation like that's the thing. That's what I feel like Kubrick.
But like you would be like, but like she was, the way she was speaking, she was doing it to piss him off.
Yeah.
100%. It was all to get a reaction out of him. It was all because she thought he was going to sleep with those two girls or had slept with those two girls, and she wanted him to feel jealous. I don't even know how much of it was more than that. And I feel like it was, you would say something like that to someone in order to get a reaction out of them. That's what she wanted. And he was like, in his head, he was like, oh, she's mentally cheated on me, da 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 da. But really, it wasn't about that, I felt.
Yeah, but that's the point. Like, it's just like, obviously, she was doing it to make him feel jealous, because he was with these two models. But was it though at the same time? Was it? Because initially at the start of the film, she was dancing with this complete stranger, and clearly, clearly they were. That wasn't a.
No, true, but they were both on their way to being with other people in that first party.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%. They were definitely. There is more to. Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. I don't know. I think when you watch those scenes, when you look at Tom Cruise with those two models, he's kind of like...
They're leading him to a bedroom. The only reason he gets pulled away is because someone else is in trouble.
Yes, but...
Whereas she's like... still, she says no. At the end of the day, she says no, and he never says no to those women. He 100% could have ended up in a bedroom.
I can't lie. I don't see that scene like that. If you look at that scene of what Tom Cruise is trying to do, yes, he's kind of... He's like kind of... playing this really charming guy who's like joking around, but he's always establishing that
they link arms with him and lead him away.
I know, but like he's that like renowned guy. Like he's that character. He's like Tony Stark in that situation, isn't he? He's like, it doesn't mean he's like a. I'm not saying he's
just a doctor. He's not Iron Man.
No, but at the party, he's like clearly the person who obviously knows all these people. And
he knows no one.
Okay. Yes, he knows no one, but then he meets the pianist and etc. He clearly has that aura about him, whereas Nicole Kidman is clearly bored and feeling like she doesn't have that attention.
I agree. But I think that's also Tom Cruise. He doesn't know anyone at the party. He knows the pianist, but he knows none of the people actually at the party.
He also knows those two girls as well.
No, they just meet. No. He doesn't know them.
Well, he knew them from before.
From where before?
They was literally saying he knew them from.
Okay. So like he vaguely knows these two women who he's flirting with. 100% flirting.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's not flirting with them.
They lead him off and are flirting with him to a bedroom. I'm just saying, I do think they're both 100% in the wrong, but at least Nicole Kidman says no.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I do. No, but I do think he's still. If you watch that scene, he's still. I don't think he's a good person. I don't think either of them are necessarily good people. Mm-hmm. They're very toxic people, toxic lovers. But also at the same time, the pair of them in those situations when they're being seduced by other people are still constantly reverting back to the idea of them being in a marriage. But Tom Cruise, I feel like when I watch those scenes, Tom Cruise does it. I don't know.
Oh, maybe, you see, when I watch that scene, I feel like Nicole Kidman does it better than Tom Cruise.
Guys, let us know who you think. This is not like a. Once again, we're doing this whole like men versus women situation. But when I watch that scene, when I watch those two scenes simultaneously alongside each other, I think Nicole Kidman has. There is a much higher chance that she's going to sleep with that guy than Tom Cruise is going to sleep with those guys.
Oh, really? I disagree.
I really believe, and maybe that's just because of who we are, and I'm a guy and you're a girl, and like you
because
see
we
those
think about
better.
It like, is it like, if my boyfriend was doing that, or if my girlfriend was doing that, how would I react?
Maybe.
Do you know what I mean?
Maybe.
Like, in my head, I'd be like, what the fuck? And I'm sure in your head, you're thinking, what the fuck? Do you know what I mean? So it's like that, like,
I don't know. Yeah. Right. Anyways, guys, that's our thoughts on Eyes Wide Shut for now. The last film which we managed to check out of the month of May, gosh, it's a long episode, is the new film by Mr. Wes Anderson, The Phoenician Scheme. Right. So beforehand, we've not been hearing great things about this film.
No, we haven't.
Really?
Really quite bad things about this film.
Yeah. A lot of people had been like just really saying it's a dull kind of,
worse than any of the previous.
Yeah. So we went into this not with the most enthusiastic kind of attitude.
Bad screen. We were all just
really
a bit
bad
like
screen. Yeah, it was a tiny screen with a couple of people huddled together in a room. But we watched it and
I enjoyed it. I had a good time. I thought it was fun. It was no Grand Budapest Hotel, but I'm not forcing Wes Anderson to make masterpieces every time.
Yeah.
It was. I wasn't bored. Very pacey. I wanted to see the business deal go through all the time. The relationship between the two main characters, the businessman and his daughter who is trying to be a nun. It was sweet, and
the film is quite sweet. Yeah, it's not like good. It's about family, and of course, like the Royal Tenenbaums does the whole Wes Anderson style and kind of breakdown of family way better than any of his other films. But still, the film does have a heart. It is sweet. It's very charming, as a lot of Wes Anderson films are. I think it's quite a likable film. Yeah. I think Benicio del Toro is fantastic. Obviously, it's shot fucking amazingly well. A lot of the side characters are really, really entertaining. Michael Cera is great. Even Richard Ayoade, who plays this kind of communist sort of militia guy. Yeah,
this was very funny as well, this film. Like, there was a lot of jokes in it, and I found myself laughing. And I do quite like Wes Anderson's sense of humour as well. Like with the communist terrorists, like with the basketball playing businessman, like those little sort of farces. I just find it all very amusing. Yeah. And I had a nice time.
Yeah. I will say, like, we both liked the film. we both liked the film. It's not a Wes Anderson film that's going to necessarily leave a lasting impression on me, for sure. No. Don't think it's quite got the heart.
I wouldn't be fussed to watch it again.
Yeah, I think it's very like mid-tier Wes Anderson. I would comfortably put it in like mid-tier Wes Anderson. Yeah,
and I'm glad because I really didn't like Asteroid City, so I feel like I was nice to go and watch a sort of short, sweet, fun Wes Anderson film.
Yeah. I don't think this film was that pretentious.
No,
a lot of people are saying it's pretentious. I don't actually think so. I think the plot is quite. It sticks to the plot quite well. It doesn't really become bloated. Yeah.
Is each one is an objective and a deal.
Exactly.
And there's even action in it, which I feel like I don't usually see from a Wes Anderson film.
Yeah, solid. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it to a certain extent. Yeah. But there you go, guys. That was everything that we watched in the month of May. Do let us know what you thought of any of those films if you managed to check them out, and also do let us know what you guys managed to watch this previous month as well. We will, of course, be returning with the next episode at the end of June to talk about the first of the summer blockbuster season. A lot of blockbusters coming out this month. We have Ballerina, we have F1, we have 28 Days Later coming out. We have, a lot of cool films on the horizon.
Yes.
Which we will be chatting about in the coming weeks. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. And we will catch you very soon in the next episode of the Popcorn Podcast. Cheers.